Hi all. Welcome to another episode of Dear Azure. And then we are here to discuss more about Power Apps for Azure Cloud Professionals. So, in a days now that we are working on various technologies, including Microsoft Azure, Power Platform, and then again, we cannot say that I'm just working on Azure or I'm just working on Power Platform because we do have intersection or collaboration of all of those technologies all together. So, but if you compare these two streams, those are bit different. So the one which is maybe Azure, it is for the professionals who are directly involved into the configuration, coding, and everything. So I will say those are kind of an native developers or native admins that we are working with. And then again, on the other hand, we do have Power Platform, which includes Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and many other services, which we will see in a moment. So which is again a bit different stream wherein we encourage people who don't have any coding background or who don't like to code or who don't know how to code. So it is a kind of a low code or no code platform wherein all of those citizen developers can come in and then they can start developing the applications on top of it. So in this session, we are expecting cloud from both the areas, native developers and at the same time the Power Apps developers or the Power Platform developers or citizen developers who don't know how to code, but they want to build beautiful applications. So at the core, Azure has got various various platform kind of an uh, capabilities with that. For example, compute, then data, and then again AI and many more. And then we have simple configurations available at the end of Power Apps or Power Platform through which we'll be able to develop applications very quickly. So in this session, we will see combinedly how Power Apps as well as the Azure professionals, they can work together and then they will be able to build out those kind of an simple and beautiful apps. So I'm expecting the audience who joined today have got basic understanding of Power Apps and just the basic understanding of Azure. So even if you are just from the area of Power Apps or Power Platform, if you are just the citizen developers, don't worry, we will still cover the area of Azure, like how you can simply do few configurations at Azure side, and then you will be able to concentrate on all of your low code or no code kind of an platform for Power Apps specifically. All right, so just a quick introduction. Myself, Nandadeep Nachan. I am Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services as well as Microsoft Certified Trainer, author of couple of books on SharePoint Framework as well as SharePoint Hybrid with SharePoint 2019. And onto the right hand side, here are few of the social media handlers to get in touch with me if you want to discuss more about this topic or in general. Okay, so the agenda for this session is that for those who don't know more about Azure, we will have a quick overview of Azure services, like what Azure has got to offer for everyone. And then we will have an overview of Power Platform too. Majorly here, we will cover all of the new things which have come after the Microsoft build announcements. And then we will get into three demos. So I will try not to have any PPTs or just slide in front of you, but I will concentrate more onto the demos. So we'll get into three cool demos like how we can build simple Power Apps which can consume the data from SQL DB, and then how we can connect to Azure Blob storage from Power Apps, wherein we will develop an application for our frontline workers, how they will be able to use those capabilities. And then lastly, we will go bit into the development area, like how we can create the Azure APIs on our own, and then how we can consume those in Power Apps. Okay, so I hope that sounds interesting. So with that, let's get into the overview of Azure services. So for example, if you have not started your journey with Azure, or maybe if you are very much new to the Azure, mostly from the Power Platform area. So this diagram, which is available at this URL by a gentleman called as Lee Scott, he has presented this Azure services wherein he's specifically talking about all of those platform services as well as the infrastructure services that we have got. So Azure can help you to tackle through business challenges. So you bring your requirements, creativity, and favorite software development tools, And then Azure brings a massive global infrastructure that is always available for you to build your applications on. So we do have various aspects here like security management, and then we do have few of the platform services which include compute, web and mobile developer services, data, IoT, integration with other platform or services. And then we do have few hybrid operations as well, because even as of today, most of the organizations are on premises, and then or at least they are on to the transition to the Microsoft cloud or cloud in general. So in that case, we need to have some kind of an hybrid operations done to have a proper handshake, and then get the data between those two platforms. And then again, we do have specific infrastructure services which includes compute, storage, and networking. So quickly focusing on a few of those important services here. So first one is probably compute. So compute services are often one of the primary reason why companies move to the Azure platform. So Azure provides a range of options for hosting applications and services, and then these examples here includes probably virtual machines or containers that we can use for compute. Then the another strong area of Azure is with networking. So linking all of your compute resources and providing access to the applications is the key functionality of Azure networking. So networking functionality in Azure includes a range of options to connect the outside world to the services and features in the global Azure data centers that we have. And then the another major infrastructure service that we have is the storage. So Azure provides four main type of storage here, mostly like with the blob storage, Azure files, premium storage, or even with the databases that we have got. And then again, couple of our demos today are concentrated more about using storage in the Power Apps. Then we do have a few of the other capabilities like mobile, which is kind of an majorly used nowadays kind of an capability from Microsoft Azure. So with Azure, developers can create mobile backend services for iOS, Android, Windows apps quickly and very much easily. So features that used to take time and increase the project risk, such as adding corporate sign-in and then connecting to the on-premises resources, for example, SAP, Oracle, SQL Server, and SharePoint. So now that they are pretty much simple with these kind of fan scenarios. And then we have most of the um, area where we concentrate around databases. So Azure provides multiple database services to store widely or kind of a wide variety of data types and volumes. So we do have Cosmos DB, we do have SQL DB, and very other options. The again major kind of an area that we need to concentrate in Azure is probably web along with the mobile. So having the great web experience is kind of an critical in today's business world. So Azure includes first class support to build and host your web apps, as well as HTTP or HTTPS based web services. And then again, it focus mainly onto the web hosting. Again, we do have IoT, wherein people are able to access more information than ever before, like personal digital kind of an information, as well as data from maybe weather system, communication systems, or maybe imaging kind of a platform. So all those capabilities are with Azure. The another important area of Azure is AI. So AI in the context of cloud computing is based around the broad range of services, the core of which is machine learning. So machine learning is a data science technique which allows computers to use existing data to forecast future behaviors. And then lastly, we do have another important area called as DevOps. So DevOps bring together people, process, and technology by automating all of the software delivery to provide continuous value to your users or to your customers. And with Azure DevOps, you can create, build, and release pipelines that provides continuous integration, delivery, and deployment for your applications. And yes, at the same time, you can be able to extend this DevOps kind of a functionality with Power Apps as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to accommodate that in today's demo, but I will encourage you to also have explore that area as well. Okay, so with that, let's have an overview of Power Platform. So this is the screenshot which I came across in one of the sessions in Microsoft Build. Now that I don't remember which session it was, but this includes all of the newer capabilities as well as the newer icons that we have specifically for the Microsoft Power Platform. So for example, if you already have been working with Power Platform, you know that we have the core components like Power BI through which we'll be able to create reports, analytics, and some kind of a visualization. At the same time, we do have Power Apps, which is mainly focusing onto the application development. So through which you can create Canvas app or model-driven apps. Even at the same time, we do have Power Apps pages, Power App portals kind of and things as a sub part of Power Apps. And then we have Power Automate, through which we will be able to automate most of our work. So all these Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate, they work on the concept of connectors, through which we will be able to connect to various underlying systems or services. And from there, we can consume the data and use that data in our application. So we will again look into one of the demo for that. The fourth major component of Microsoft Power Platform is Power Virtual Agents. Shortly, we call them as PVA or chatbots. So, which are kind of an intelligent virtual agents which help you to create chatbots in a very easy way. You don't have to even write any code for that. You can simply start building your canvas, and you can keep building all of your activities by targeting the user intention, and then you will be able to create those simple but powerful power virtual agents which are nothing but chatbot. And then we do have Dataverse, which is the major focusing onto storing your data very much securely, and then it is the preferred option for Power Platform developers to store their data. Quickly coming to the announcement that we had got into the Microsoft build, that we have introduction of Power Apps pages, so which is the newest Microsoft Power Platform product for creating modern, secure as well as responsive business websites. And then another thing that we have got from Microsoft build is this Power FX, which is a low code language for everyone, and it is the new name for the formula language for Canvas apps that we already had. And then we also had got another functionality coming from Microsoft build is Power Apps Express Design, through which we can instantly turn the images, documents, maybe the Figma design files and PowerPoints into the apps with the leading cognitive AI capabilities using Express Design in Microsoft Power Apps. So simply that means, for example, if you are developing Power Apps and you just have idea in your mind that this is how I want to create my app, so you can start drawing that idea onto a paper, onto a physical paper with pen or pencil. You can design what kind of a layout you want for that particular Power Apps app, and then you can just pass on that design to something called as Figma design. So it will create a Figma design file, and that gets converted into the Power Apps app. So that means you don't have to maybe drag and drop each of the control to create your forms. You just have idea in your mind, pass it on to Figma, and it will help you to create the Power Apps for you. So in short, Power Apps is a platform that benefits both pro developers as well as the citizen developers. So in a traditional development environment, only pro developers could be involved with the actual making of the app. But with the Power Apps, everyone that has got power to build the apps, they need to or they need by using the advanced functionality that was previously available only to the professional developers. So Power Apps kind of an democratize the custom business app building experience by enabling users to build feature-rich and custom business apps without writing even a single line of code. Okay, so that was the uh, overview of Azure as well as the Power Platform. For example, if you are not familiar with that service or hasn't used that into the depth. So with that, let's get into our demo. So that was the end of all of my theory, end of all of my slides that I had. Now let's quickly get into the demo part. So in Azure, mostly or maybe most of the time Azure has been used for data, that means data storage. And then we do have various capabilities available in Azure through wherein we will be able to store the data. And then Azure SQL database is one of that. It is again one of the majorly used database for storing all of your structured data. So let's get into the demo and see how we will be able to consume the data that we have in Azure SQL database. So I already had created one Azure SQL database because it does take more time to create or set up that Azure SQL and the database inside that. So okay, so again, for example, if you are very much new to this platform, in that case, what you can do is just go to the Azure portal, which is portal.azure.com. And once you get into the home, just click on create a resource. And again, from here, just search for SQL database and start creating your SQL database. So it will just ask you for the server that needs to be set up here and then the database. And here you can pass on what kind of an authentication you want, how you want to back up your storage with the local redundancy or zone redundancy or geo redundancy backup storage. And then it will create a SQL database with the server for you. So with that, let me again go back to the resource group that I had already created and the SQL database that I have. So this is the SQL database which I have set up for this demo. And this SQL database is based on the AdventureWorks database, which everyone is very much familiar of. So the intention here is not to build or how to build this SQL database, but intention here is like how you can consume the data that you have inside your Azure SQL database in Power Apps. Okay, so just assume that you have any of your SQL database wherein you're storing information about your products or maybe your customers or anything that you are interested in. Okay, so this is the database that you have. And then once you have a look at these options that we have from the Azure portal, just concentrate on these three options that we have got here. So we do have options for Power Platform, specifically for creating applications on top of it using Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. So we will just concentrate onto the Power Apps. So once we get into this option, what will happen is that we will be able to create an interface through which we'll be able to connect to the data which is lying inside this SQL database, and not just connect, but we'll be able to perform all the CRUD operations like create, read, delete, and update kind of an operations with this. So just imagine that, for example, if we don't have this kind of an capabilities, in that case, what will happen is that we will have our SQL database built, and then we will create maybe uh, application using .NET or maybe using Node.js or any of the favorite technology that you know or you are very much familiar of. And then we will have to write our own code to get connected to the SQL database and then perform all of the rules, security things and everything. And then from there, we will start writing our own code to get connected to this SQL database, write data to the SQL database, read, update, delete, all those kind of things we'll have to do by hand by writing the code. But with these Power Apps, we do have that capability through which you will see that we don't have to even write a single line of code, and still we will be able to build the applications which can run across web as well as on mobile, through which we'll be able to connect and then perform the operations against our SQL database. So let's see how we can do that. So once you are into your SQL database in Azure portal, just locate the Power Platform menu and click on Power Apps. So once you get into Power Apps, you will be able to see here that you can get started. For example, if you don't know how to use Power Apps, here are a few of the learning materials available. So just click on these links and it will take you to the Microsoft documentation from where you will be able to learn more about how to use this kind of an apps with SQL database. So what we will do is, let's say, for example, if you already have built any apps on this, you can just click on this and then it will take you to the apps in Power Platform. But we will just click on Get Started, and then this one will ask you a few information because obviously Power, Plat- Power Platform or Power Apps cannot directly connect to this SQL database by giving a name, but it also needs some kind of an authentication, and that authentication can be specified here. So which is nothing but, for example, if you already have coded something in .NET, so this is your connection string, like how I want to get authenticated with my SQL database, and then I will use that authentication mechanism to perform the operations on SQL database. So here, just the authentication is pretty much simple, and then I will just type in my password. Okay, and then we do have various tables inside that SQL database. So this is the list of all of the tables that we have got, and then we will be able to select that particular table, and the Power Apps app will be based on that particular table. So that means we will be able to perform operations against that particular table, which we are selecting now using Power Apps app. So I will just go ahead with this product table, wherein we have a list of all of the products that we are supporting as a part of Adventure Works strategy. All right. And then once it is done, just click on create. It will take few moments to get your Power App set up, and then it will create a Power Apps app for you, which will be connected to your table storage, and through which we'll be able to perform all those CRUD kind of an operations. And again, just to note here, we are not writing any kind of an code. We just have given the authentication mechanism through which we'll be able to connect to the SQL database, and then Power Apps will build that app. So let us wait for some moment. It will take maybe a minute, and then we will be able to see that power of Power Apps connecting to the Azure SQL. Right, so I guess it even did not took 1 minute, maybe a less than that, probably just 30 seconds or maybe 20 seconds that you have seen. So just see that I did not write a single line of code, and now that we have this Power Apps app available to us. So probably we will not make any changes as of now. I will just click on this play, and you will see that all of this data is coming from the SQL database that we have here. Okay, so all of this data is coming from there, and then this is the data which is showing maybe a title and a description here. We will look into that a bit later, and then we can get into more details of this data as well. So this one is giving more functionality for that. Again, we do have edit menu here. Once we click on edit, we will be able to update this. And then let's say I will just get it updated with some value, color as red, and I will just click on submit. So this submission will happen onto the SQL database. Okay, so once we again open up that particular data, you should be able to see that. So this takes some time, but this connection now has got all that capability through which we'll be able to perform all the CRUD operations on top of this data. All right, so let's see like how this is done in the background. Okay, so for that, what I will do is I will just again get back to the make.powerapps.com probably, or oh, sorry, I will have to get into make.powerautomate.com. Okay, so if you remember our discussion, I said that everything in this Power Platform, including Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI, runs on the concept of connectors through which we connect to underlying system or services, and then we get the data from there. So let's say now that if I go into the data, look into the custom connectors. Okay, we don't have anything here. Okay, sorry, it wasn't a custom connector, but it was a connection with the SQL database. Custom connectors are the one that we build lately. So now that if I keep scrolling, we should be able to see the data, or maybe let me just see the modified. Okay, so now that from here, you can see that this is a connection that we just have created just 2 minutes ago. So this is the connection which is responsible for our Power Apps to get connected with the SQL database and then perform all those operations. Okay, so it is not happening in the air, but this is happening through this particular connection. And at the same time, even you can see that I had created similar kind of a connection just yesterday to see that this one works. Okay, so this is the thing which is responsible in the background to get your Power Apps app connected to the SQL database and then perform this. Okay, all right. So now that let's see how this Power Apps app is able to get all that data from your database. So for that, again, for example, if you just click on this browse gallery, here we do have items. And in this item, you can see here we have some kind of an formula, which is uh, probably you can just right now concentrate onto this part like search in this particular table, and then it will just sort out that by some kind of an mechanism like maybe the color, name, and product number. So this is just some kind of an formatting how we want to show the data, but the underlying thing here is that it is getting all that data from your connection that you have just built with the power to the SQL database. Okay, so this is the place from where we are getting all the data here. Now that, let's say, for example, if you want to see how from where this data is coming from, so this particular table has got various columns called as name, and maybe product number. So all this data is coming from there itself. So whenever we do this dot, then the name of that column will be able to refer to that data. And now that, let's say, for example, if you want to change the outline of this, you want to change how this one looks. In that case, we do have a layout available here for this browse gallery or this gallery kind of an control, and then we can maybe change to image and title or image title and subtitle. So let us get it changed to image title and subtitle. All right, so now that you can see that the layout is a bit different. We don't have anything for image. We just have something for title and a description. Okay, so let's get into the image first and then fix that image. So right now this image is just pointing to the sample image, which is the mountain image, gray color you can see here. Now that, let's say, we want to get this particular image from the table that we have got. So in this case, what we can do is all of the data inside this table can be referred from this item. So we can just do this item, and then we can select what kind of a column in the SQL contains that image. So in this case, I think the first column, which was thumbnail photo, has got the image. So we'll just select that, and you can see that everything is reflected here. We are able to see the image from there. At the same time, now let's say this one was pointing to this item dot color. We can get it changed to maybe product number. Okay, and you can see that this one has reflected. Now that, again, if we run this, we'll be able to see this experience in our web as well as onto the mobile. And again, same thing that even from here, we'll be able to create a new item, and this item will get stored into our database. All right, so this is how simply we will be able to connect to the Azure SQL, and then we'll be able to get the data from there. So only thing to note here that we did not write a single line of code. We just made a connection to the SQL database, and we were able to create this nice looking, easy to use Power Apps app in just 2 to 3 minutes of time. All right. Okay. So the bottom line here is that if you are from the low code or no code kind of an background, you can simply get connected to the Azure SQL database, and then you will be able to create beautiful looking applications in a minute. All right. Okay. So with that, let's get into our next demo. If you have any queries, please keep them posting into the chat window, and I will cover it towards the end. All right. So let's get into our next demo, like how we can connect to the Azure Blob storage from Power Apps. So the idea behind this demo is that let's say we do have a few of the users or maybe the frontline workers who get to the site, they click the photos, and then they probably want to store those photos somewhere. Okay, and that somewhere location, which we can have it as a Azure Blob storage. So what we can do here is that we can set up Azure Blob storage, and then we will create a Power Apps app through which we'll be able to get connected with the Azure Blob storage, and then again we will perform the same CRUD kind of an operations that we need here. All right. So with that, let's get into another demo. Let me again go back to my resource group, and I already have created this storage account. Again, if you don't know how to create, just click on create. Just find the storage account, and then you should be able to create that. Because it takes some time, I just thought I will get it created. So this is the storage account that I have got. This is the resource group where it is located in location and all those details. like the replication is just locally redundant, and then it is using storage v2, which is the general purpose v2 storage account that we have got. Under data storage, we do have all of the storage options that we will be able to perform with the storage account. That means we can have a containers in which we can add the files. Even same kind of a functionality we do have with file shares. We do have queues here and the tables that we can create with the storage account. For this demo, we will concentrate onto the containers. So container is the place wherein we can have various files coming together, and then the wrapper for that is the container. So I just have created two containers called as Contoso and Fabricam, and inside of which we can add the images or files that we need. And this is the container, or this is the storage that we are going to use in our Power Apps to create that kind of an application. So simply that Power Apps can connect to the Azure Blob storage, and then you can upload files, for example, Word, Excel, or even a multimedia, images, audio or video using the Azure Blob storage connector for Power Apps. And when you design a Canvas app that connects to Azure Blob storage, the app uses the Blob storage account name and key to connect. And after you share the app with others, users can use the connection configured inside that app to upload the files to the Blob storage account without need to share the Blob storage name and keys with the other app users. Okay, so with that, let's get into the demo, and we will see from the Power Apps how we can create that Power Apps which can connect to the storage account, and then we'll be able to build that application. So this is again a low code, um, or maybe I will say no code kind of an application. Exactly not no code, because we might have to write few formulas here. So I will say low code kind of a thing. So first thing, I will get into the Power Apps. I will just go to the make.powerapps.com. Probably let me just close this one. So I will go to the Power Apps portal called as make.powerapps.com. And first thing is that Power Apps requires a connection to the Azure Blob storage to be created for the app to connect to the storage. Okay. So we will start with the blank app. Okay. And or maybe even without blank app, I think we should be able to create that with data as well. Okay, so here we should have something for data. Okay, we don't have it. um okay, all right. Okay, let me just get into the more create options. Here we do have templates and all those things available. Unfortunately, there was an option for data which doesn't seem to be here. Microsoft keep changing those things, but okay, let me just get into the more data sources. And here we should be able to directly see the connection. All right. Okay, so here we do have connections which we can use. So I will just simply go ahead and create a new connection. And in this new connection, we can just go ahead and search for the Azure Blob storage. Again, unfortunately, we don't have any of the data here, which or maybe okay, another thing. Okay, somehow I'm not able to see all of the apps here. Or okay, let's do one thing. Let us go ahead with the blank app, and we will go ahead with that. So we will go ahead with blank canvas app. We will just click on create, and I will just name it as uh, Azure Blob storage. Okay, all right, and then let us click on create, and from here we will create the connection. All right, so I'll just click on skip here as of now, and then here we do have data. So we'll just click on that data, and then from here we should be able to connect to all of the connectors that we have got. So here we will again probably click on connectors, and or maybe let me just try to search here for Azure Blob storage, and we should be able to get that. All right, so we can just get started with this Azure Blob storage. All right, so now that this Azure Blob storage is loading, all right. So now that we have connection with the Azure Blob storage, it doesn't know where to connect and all those things. All right. So what we will do here is that we will just get started with this. And hmm, all right. And now that we have this app connected to the Azure Blob storage, and let us add few of the galleries to see the containers and the files from that containers from the connected storage. Okay. So what I will do for that is I will just go into the insert. I will get into the gallery, and from here we will just select maybe a blank vertical. So this is just the gallery that we have got. Okay, so now that from here, we can just go ahead and select this Azure Blob storage that we have got. All right. And then we will just select this first thing that we do have, or let us get into the Azure Blob storage thing here. And what we need to do here is that we need to have a formula being written here through that through which we should be able to connect to the root folders of that. So for that we do have list root folders v2, and then we can just type the value here, so through which we should be able to connect to all those things, right? Oh, sorry. Okay, so through which we should be able to get connected through all of those. But one thing here is that firstly, let me just click on this add connector again, or let us start one more time. Let me just get started with this one more time. This should have prompted me for creating the blob storage account, which I don't think it has done so far. Okay, all right. Okay, so now that we just probably it might be taking the previous connection that I had created. Otherwise, simply it asks me for which kind of a source I want to get connected, and there I can give the data through which or to where I want to get connected. All right. So
Hello.
yes.
Mandeep, is it because it is a premium? That is why it is not asking?
No, it is not like that. Even though it is a premium, it should ask for that. That's not the problem. Only thing is like probably it might be taking the previous connection that I had built with this. Otherwise, it asked me for which Azure storage account that I want to get connected to. Okay. Okay. Or maybe let us go ahead with that. But only thing like, for example, if I directly do this, probably you won't be able to understand like how it is getting connected to the storage and from where we can get that. Or just let me just try it one more time. Maybe close this. Let us open up the app one more time. Okay, and let us start with blank app. Let us start with create. Let us just name it as Azure Blob. Click on create. All right, I will just skip this part because whenever we will come here, we should be able to, or at least it should prompt me for the blob storage, which I'm trying to connect to. All right, so only thing is like it is not asking me. So I'm just assuming that probably it is using the old connection that I had used yesterday. But okay, hope so. It is the same connection that we have got there. Okay, because let me just remove it one more time and let us do it one more time because once we have the data here, we can select all of the connections that we have got here and okay. Ooh. All right, or let me just see if I can do it from here. Okay, even here we don't have data option. Okay, because previous to this, at least there was a data option here, which we can just go ahead and create that so that we should be able to very much sure that this is the data storage which I'm connecting to. Okay, let me just create a new connection. Let's try with that one more time. But okay, even here it is not giving me the option for that. Or let us do one thing. Let me just change the environment, get into the environment which is using the premium connections. Could be that part. Okay, because I'm pretty much sure that it must be taking the connections which I had already available there. But only thing is that, for example, if you are doing it for the first time, it should not confuse you that which connection I'm using here. Okay, let me just go into more options. Here we don't have anything for data again. If I go to more data sources, okay. Only thing here, even here, it should give me the option for Azure table storage, which it is not giving. All right. Or let me just do one thing. Let me get into the apps. I don't have the app here. Okay. All right, but yeah, no problem. Probably you can just assume that I'm just using that connection. Only thing here, since we don't have that data option available, I'm not able to get into that. But okay, what I can do is again, maybe I can get into the make.powerautomate.com and then from there I can show it to you. Because I already have a connection which is being used here. All right, so again, I'm into the default environment. If I get into the data, if I get into the connections, so here we have all of the connections which we are going to use. And here mostly I should have the connection already live with the Azure Blob storage, which it is using, right? So this is the this is the new connection that you must have seen in my Power Apps. So again, if I go here and try to go for the Azure Blob storage, so you can see that this is the blob storage connection, is the Northern Azure blob storage, which is being used. And this is the connector, which is live here. So it is taking the data from there. But what I can do is probably I can just edit this connector and I can show it to you. So since I already had a connection with that, it was using the same connection. Okay, so the same connection is being available here. This is the display name for that. And here you do have the authentication type. So you can use the access key. You can specify the storage account name, which is available here. If you go into the overview section, this is the storage account name that we have got, which you can use for getting connected there. And then the second thing here is you need the storage account access key, and for that you can get into the access keys, and from here you can get that key. So this is the storage name. Once you click on show keys, it will show you the key. You can just copy this particular key and put that key here, and once you do that, just click on save and your connection will be ready to use. And then you can use that connection into the Power Apps app. So this is the connection that we have got. Only thing is, like, I just wanted to show you that this connection is already with my blob storage. Otherwise, it is not like that it will automatically detect the blob storage and then it can do that. All right. Okay. So this was the thing that we have got. Now that we just have a connection to the blob storage, which is pointing to my blob storage. Now that we will go ahead and then create our Power Apps app. Okay, so pretty much clear, right? Like from where this connection is coming, because I didn't directly jump into the demo and show you that this is getting the data from my blob storage. So everything happens through the connector, and this is the connector which was automatically detected by my Power Apps app and being used here. Okay, all right. So now that we can again go back to the insert, we can get into the gallery and we can select this blank vertical. Okay, so now that we have this blank vertical, and then from the layout we can just change that particular layout to the title, so that we should be able to see some kind of an data. All right. What I will do is that for simplicity, probably we will just get rid of this arrow because we don't have any go ahead kind of an functionality here. And again, we do have the data source which needs to be selected for this, which we will select the blob storage that we have here, which is the which is the connector that we have used. And I will just click on that, and then we should be able to see all of the data or all of the containers that we have in the blob storage. So now that this is not working because we don't have any formula being specified here. And what we can do here is that we can go get into the items for this particular vertical library, vertical gallery, and then we can start typing our formulas here. So firstly, that we just need to get our root level folders, which are our containers. So for that, we have a method here called as list root folder v2 that we can use, and then we can just simply use the value here. So this should list out all of those things that we have got, and you can see that it has automatically pulled up Contoso and Fabricam, which was the containers available onto the top level. Let me just go back to that screen again, and these are the two containers that we have got there already, which are being pulled from there. So only thing, you should first have the connection, and then only you will be able to use that. If it is the first time that you're creating that container from the Power Apps app, you will be prompted to provide all those details. Otherwise, just go back to your connections and see which kind of an connections you had or you want to create. All right, so now that we have those top level containers available to us, now that let's say we want to see all of the files which are in this particular container. So for that reason, what we will do again is that I will go ahead again into the insert, and again we will put the blank vertical kind of an gallery here. Okay, so the thing here is that once we select the container from the left hand side, it should show all of the files that we have got in that container from the in the right hand gallery that we have got. And here we will select the layout probably as the title, subtitle, and body. Okay, so this is the layout that we have got. Now that what we want to do here is that as soon as we make a selection onto the left hand side gallery, that means as soon as we select our container, we want to show all of the files in that container into this gallery control. So for that, we will again get back into the items property of this gallery, and we will just change it to the Azure blob storage. Again, we do have various methods available to work with the Azure blob storage data that we have got underlined, and you will be able to see all of those as you scroll through. Only thing, like you just have to get into the documentation for this to see which is the one that you want to use. And then here is another thing. Oh, sorry, Azure blob. Okay, yeah, we do have that Azure blob storage, and then here we do have another thing called as list folder v2. Yeah, I think, yeah, v2. So this is nothing but just the version 2, since we are using this particular storage as the general purpose v2. All right, so we'll just use that v2. And then what we want to do here is that we want to provide the ID of which container it is specifying to. And that ID is coming from here. So which is nothing but our um, gallery one. All right. So again, I will go back here. Let us go back to the items. And then this is the gallery one where we have our first control coming from. So I will just select this gallery one, and then the selected.id, and then it should give us the ID of the selected container from the left hand gallery. And then we can just simply put a value here, and then we should be able to see all of the files which are from this particular container onto the left hand side. All right, so let me just click run. As soon as I click Contoso, we should be able to see this. As soon as I click Fabricam, I should be able to see the files which are coming from that container. So let's say if I go into the Fabricam container and I can show you that file, we have this PyD JPG lying inside this container, which we are able to see once we click on Fabricam. And again, for example, once we click on Contoso, it shows the files from that particular container. So this is how simply we will be able to get the data from those kind of containers. And again, probably I will not get into the details, but again, you will be able to change the layout of this. And probably if you again want to show that actual image, even that can be done very much easily here. But I will leave it up to you for that. Now that let us get into few of the other parts, like how we'll be able to upload the file from here to the Azure Blob storage, right? So for that, what I will do is I will just click on insert again. I will click on media here, and then from this media we have add picture here. Okay, so I will just select that, because from here we will be able to add the picture, and we will ask our frontline workers to add a picture here. Once they click on the button, we will get that image added to our blob storage. Okay, so this is the tap or click a picture. So whenever you will run this will give you the option to browse to any of your folder and get the image. Or for example, if you are using this onto your mobile, it will prompt you to take a picture from your mobile camera. Okay, so now that we have this image here, next thing that again we will get into the insert, and we will just add a button here. So through this button, we will be able to just upload this particular image to the blob storage. So I will just get it change the text to the upload. All right. Okay. Okay. So now that we have everything here, next thing, once we select the select the image, then we should just click on the upload button, and then that image should get uploaded to the blob storage. So for that, what we can do is we just need to write a simple line of code onto the on select property of this button. So we have this on select property here, and again that uh, button will help us to store that particular image into the Azure blob storage. Okay, so I will just select that Azure blob storage. And until and unless you have a connection, you won't be able to see the Azure Blob storage here. Okay, so you can just select Azure Blob storage, and then we have a method here called as create file. So which can help you to create a file into the Azure Blob storage. Okay, so that particular file get few things like what is the folder path. So that folder path we will get from like what is the folder path? That means the container path that we have got. So that container path will always come from our left hand gallery, so which we call it as a gallery one. So we have this gallery one dot selected item, sorry, dot selected and dot name, right? Because the name contains the name of that particular container, whether it is a Contoso or Fabricam. So that is the folder path we have got. Then second thing here we have got is the name of that particular image. So that we will be able to get from this uploaded image one, which is this control dot image. So this is the image that we have got. And then we can just or we should be able to run this. Okay, some error here. What is the next path we have? No. Okay. All right, let me just check. Okay, I think this should be the, okay, let me just check, like, do we need anything else here? Okay, right. So this expect at least few more things. First one is the folder path that we have provided. Then it is expecting us the name of the file that we should give it to that. Okay, so for that name of the file, probably what we can do is again, let me get into the here and just put the text input box here. Okay, so this is the text box that we have got, and then this is the box where we will just put the name of the file, and then we will get it uploaded. So again, I will get back to the upload, and here we will just name that as a text input one, which is our text box control dot text, and then this is the image that we want to get uploaded. All right. So with that, let me just rearrange this a bit so that it won't be on top of each other. All right. So I know that this is not the good UI, but probably this will just help you to clear out the concepts. So now that once we click on Contoso, it will show the Contoso. Once we click on Fabricam, it will show the uh, images from the Fabricam. Now that let's get into the upload kind of a functionality. I will click on this and then I will just upload this image called as target.png. I will click on OK. This will show the image here and then I will just name that image as a target. I will click on upload. Once I click on upload, the image should get uploaded into the Fabric Cam. Let me just go ahead and get back here. We do have a target here. Again, this one is happening because we did not write any kind of a refresh code, but again, I will leave it up to you. And if I go back to the Fabricam container, you should be able to see that this particular image has been added here. Okay, so this is the image that we have got, and then this particular image can be seen here as well. And again, if you change the layout of this gallery, even you should be able to see the preview of that as well. Now that quickly see how we'll be able to download that particular image. Okay, so what we can do for that is probably we will just use this particular uh, arrow on select. And again, if you want, you can probably delete this, add the download arrow, and then use that. But just to again keep it very much simple, I'm just using this on select method of this. And on the on select method of this, we will simply download this particular image to our to our storage. All right. So I will just again type Azure Blob storage, and then we have another method here called as create share link by path. So this will just create a shareable link that can be used by you. So let me just get into this first. So this is this item dot path. So what this will do is this will just create a shareable link. So that means this one will be a HTTPS based kind of a link that we will get. And now that we want to use this link so that the user will be able to download this particular image from the blob storage. And for that, we have got another method called as launch. So I will use this launch method. I will pass on this information to that, and then we will generate the web URL based on the path which is inside the Azure Blob storage. And then as we do that, let me just run this. Whenever we click on this item, it will launch that particular image URL. So this is the outcome of that, what we have written into the Azure Blob storage dot create share link by path. So this is the path that was generated by the Azure Blob storage, and it is the same path. For example, if you get into this and try to get the path for that, so this is the same path that we will get, and then we will be able to use that path with the launch kind of a thing. So that launch will just help you to launch that particular path as it is as a web URL, and then we can show that URL to our users, and then from there probably they can just right click and save the image. All right, so this was pretty much simple, that how simply we will be able to get connected with the Azure Blob storage, and then from there we will be able to perform the CRUD kind of an operations with that. All right, so this was simple thing. Only thing that we stuck here because of the connection that we have got, but just make sure that whenever you will create the Power Apps app, it will automatically take that storage connect or the connection that you already had built, and then it will take you to that. But again, if you want to re-verify those kind of connections, get into the powerautomate.com, make.powerautomate.com, go into the data and check for all those connections. And then again, for example, if you want to edit that connection, you can again do that. And from here, you should be able to change the Azure storage name as well as the Azure storage access key if in case it gets changed in the future. All right. So this was the quick demo on that. And with that, let's get into our last demo, which is about how you can consume the Azure APIs in the Power Storage, right? Oh, sorry, in the Power Apps. So again, this is another concept wherein, let's say you already have built various Azure APIs, or let's say, for example, you must have built your Azure applications in the past where it was Azure MVC kind of a thing, and then now that all those things have become obsolete, or probably you want to have the same experience for your users onto the mobile. So in that case, again, rewriting that entire code for mobile in Azure and everything, it might take a time. So in that case, what you can do is that simply you can use those Azure APIs, or just recreate those Azure APIs, and then or reuse that Azure APIs, and then you can create the Power Apps app on top of that. So again, like why to go ahead and create the APIs in the Visual Studio for this is because they are kind of a custom APIs. So custom APIs are again normal REST APIs that expose some kind of a functionality. So whether you are trying to build some complex logic or connecting to your existing system, you can simply create a REST API in your favorite platform using any of the language and describe it using Swagger, and then use that in Power Apps. Okay. So in this particular example, what we will do is we will build a REST API using ASP.NET Web API in C Sharp, which includes endpoint, probably called as product API, that will return all of the list of products. And to keep it simple, we will keep those records in a list in a memory. All right. So we will not probably write that somewhere into the Azure, but we'll just use that. So again, for that, let's say I'm into the Visual Studio, and you can just open up the Visual Studio. And again, yeah, before that, at high level steps, we will need a few things, like we need to use the Visual Studio to create REST APIs, and then we need to deploy the APIs to the Azure App Service, and then we need to register the custom API to use in Power Apps, and then lastly, we can build the Power App that consumes all those APIs. So probably just by looking at the time, I will not spend time to recreate the API, but probably I will use the one which I already have. But again, for example, if you want to create your API project, what you can do is that you can probably open up the Visual Studio, whatever version you have. I just have 2019, haven't been got a chance to upgrade to 2022. So you can open up that, you can create a new project, and in that new project, you can just search out for ASP.NET or even if you just search for API, you can just go ahead and create a project of type ASP.NET Core Web API, and then just start with the blank, and then you should be able to create the API. So what I will do is I already have got one project here. I will just open it up, called as a product API. Okay, so this is created on the same method that I have shown you, and this particular custom API will help us to return the list of products. And again, all those products will be written in memory. We are not connecting to any of the Azure table storage or any of the other thing here. Simply, we are creating those products in memory and returning from there. So quickly, if I go into the Solution Explorer, once you scaffold that project, this is how it will be shown. And by default, you will have something called as weather forecast, which is the default, weather forecast controller, which is the default controller available to you. And then this will simply help you to get the weather information. Even you can use that. I also have another controller here called as product controller.cs. I know that this should have been under the controllers folder, but okay, so this is the product controller that we have got, and the root for this particular product API is API/controller. So that means whenever we will run this project, the URL will be our hosted URL/API/products. And then simply this particular project has got a class called as product, which has got few attributes like ID of the product, name, details, and price. And then we do have all those products coming from in memory. Again, you can write a code here to get connected to the Azure storage, or maybe Azure SQL database, or anything else where you are storing your products, and then you should be able to return that. And then we just have a method called as get, which is exposed as an HTTP get method. And then we are just returning those products. Just rename this as an from employees to products. All right. Now that let me just run this project and show it to you how this one looks like. So once you just run that, we will simply navigate to the /API/controller. and then I can show you the output which is being generated by that. So by default, this one is pointing to the weather forecast API that we also have with that coming by default, and this is the data from that. If you want to go to the our API, you can just click /API/products, and here we have all of these products coming from in memory, which we have written here. Okay, so all these things are coming from in memory. All right. Now that next thing is that whenever we write any of the API, probably since I created this API, I know that what this API means, and then how to consume this API. But let's say whenever I'm exposing this API to the outside world or to the other developers in my organizations, obviously I should have some documentation for that. And then again, having those kind of a documentation in a Word format probably not a good idea, because no one goes through those long Word files and have a look at what kind of an API is available, and what are the accepted parameters, request response coming out of that API. What is the significance of each of the um, parameter of that and everything. So for that, we should always go ahead with something called as a Swagger. So we should always have a Swagger support for all of those API. So again, when it comes to the Swagger support, we have got three things there. First one is open API specification, which are kind of a set of rules to describe the REST API. Then secondly, we do have a Swagger, which is a set of open source tools built around those open API specifications. And then thirdly, we have got something called as a NuGet package, which is Swashbuckle. So this is again a Swagger tool for documenting all of your .NET APIs. So simply like, for example, if you want to add that kind of a support for your Visual Studio created APIs, in that case, what you can do is go into the Solution Explorer, right click onto your project, and just go into the Manage NuGet Packages. And here, just go into the browse, and you should search for swashbuckle dot SPE netcore, I guess. Swashbuckle. If you just if you just search for swashbuckle.ASP.NET Core, just get this thing added to your project, and then this one will help you to document all of your APIs, so that a rest of the other world will be able to understand what you have built, and not that every time they have to reach out to you for explaining the API that you have built. All right, so now that we have that, next thing that what we can do is that we need to configure that Swagger, and that thing can be done in the startup.cs. So each of the API that we create always has got startup.cs associated with that. And then we have a method here called as configure method. Okay, but before that, we do have a configure services method. In that, we just need to add this services dot add swagger gen. So swagger gen, that means swagger generator. So this method adds all the swagger generator to the service collections that we have got. The next thing here is that we need to use the configure method, and in this configure method, we need to add something called as app.use swagger, and then app.use swagger UI, and then we can specify the endpoint for that. So what happens is that Swagger UI looks at this JSON document that we have specified, and then automatically generate the documentation for the API, which is our product API. So now that with that, if we run this project one more time, what will happen is that let us go into that, let it run. So now that it should have our Swagger documentation ready. So how we can access that is simply instead of going into any of the API, just type Swagger, right? So once you do that, this one will take you to all of the APIs available inside of your project. So in this project, we have two APIs available. First one is the products that we have built customly, and second one is the weather forecast, which is available by default with any of the .NET Core API project that we create. And then only thing is that this is the documentation which is available right inside your solution. So you don't have to produce any another complex Word, Excel, or PowerPoint files to explain your documentation to the rest of your world or to the rest of your team. So again, for example, if someone wants to get into the schema, like what the product is constitute of, in that case, they can just open it open it up and they will be able to see that. Again, if you have a nice documentation created in your or use nice commenting feature in Visual Studio, this one will explain all those things. The best thing here is that let's say I want to know what kind of an API endpoint supported by these products. So in that case, we can see that this one is only giving us get for this API slash products, and then from here even we will be able to try it out. So once you click on this, it will also return us the example that how this one looks. So let us execute that, and then you can see that this is the output that we have got. So even before I try to consume this kind of an API, I will be able to know exactly what kind of an request I should pass it on to into our headers, and then again what kind of a response I will get and what kind of a response headers I can use. And this kind of an exact information will be always needed for us whenever we are creating the custom connectors with Power Platform. So this Swagger will help you definitely for kind of an satisfying that need. Okay, so that was about how we can create our APIs. And then again, let's say, for example, if you go to this particular endpoint, which is swagger slash v1 slash swagger.json, here all of the API endpoints being exposed by your API project, you will be able to see it here. And then this is the exact information which is expected by the custom connectors in Power Platform, so that it knows that what are the exact inputs that the Power Apps consumer needs to pass on to your API, and what is the exact output that the Power Apps consumer can get when they will invoke this API. All right. So from that perspective, this documentation is pretty much useful, or at least it is a prerequisite. The other thing here is that now that let's say you want to use this kind of an customly built APIs in your Power Apps, what you can do. So let us see that. So for that, I will again go back to the sorry, Azure portal, and then here I just have created something called as API management service. So this API management service, or even it is referred to as APIM, it is a fully managed service that enables organizations to publish, secure, transform, as well as maintain and monitor all of your APIs that you have got. So I just went ahead and created one API management service here. But again, it is the same thing that you can just get into the create resource and search for API management service, and you should be able to create that. But only thing that once you start creating this might take 15 to 20 minutes. So for that reason, I just have went ahead and created this API. So here we do have various things available. Here we'll be able to see all of the API which can be exposed from here. So I'll just click on that APIs from here, or maybe even you can select that from the left hand side. Here we have option to probably create or define those HTTP APIs manually by ourselves, or even if you have got other WebSocket, GraphQL, or synthetic GraphQL kind of a thing, you can use that as well. Again, we do have open APIs kind of a thing here, which is again a Swagger documentation. So Swagger is a newer name for the open API. And then again, for example, if you have a WSDL kind of a format, SOAP API has been exposed, you can use this one. So since in our case, we have this thing is being done as a open API, we will use that. But okay, before that, one thing that we need to do is we will have to export this sorry, we will have to publish this API to any of our web apps. So for that, I should have created this earlier, but we will quickly create a web app where we will get this API exposed, and then we will then use that into our Power Apps. All right. So I will just name it as something which is non-existing, right? Okay. So this is the web app that we are creating. Runtime stack, we will just select it as a .NET Core 3.1. Again, if you're not pretty much sure which runtime stack we should go ahead with, probably what you can do is stop running this, go into the properties of your project, right? And then from here, you should be able to see which target framework you are using. So in this case, .NET Core 3.1, which is being used here. All right. Okay. And then probably let me just go ahead with this for a time being. And then let us get this web app created quickly. All right. So I'm now into the deployment slot. Nothing here. Networking, nothing. In the monitoring, I will just turn off the application insights. Probably I don't need that, so that the web app will spin up quickly, and then we'll be able to consume that. All right, so let's get into review and create. Hopefully this should be okay, and we will create this web app. So once this web app is created, right now this application is just running locally onto the local host on some port number. Once this web app is created, we will publish this API, which is the product API that we have created here. Uh, Sorry, to that web app, and then we will use that in our API M. And then the API M again has got functionality through which we'll be able to create a custom connector from there itself to the Power Platform, which we are going to see. All right, so let it do quickly. All right, so yeah, so that was quick enough. So we can just go into the web app that was created. I'll just click on get published profile to download that published profile, which is done here. What I will do now here is that I will right click on this, click on publish, because right now this API is running in the localhost. We want to get it published to the Azure portal. Click on new, and I will click on import profile to just import the profile which we just have downloaded. Let me go into the downloads folder. This is the one that I have got. Click on finish. All right. So this should not take more than 2 or 3 minutes. This is mostly a quicker operation to get it published. All right. Okay, we'll go ahead with web deploy itself so that it will be faster instead of a zip deploy. Because again, we cannot use the local host kind of a thing directly into the Power Apps. Or the second option there is that we can either do the mapping of that local host with something called as ngrok or ngrok, and then we can use that ngrok because only thing Power Apps expect is that the endpoint that you have there, it is a publicly accessible endpoint. All right. So now that we have our website ready, if I go into the slash swagger, you can see that the same API is available, but right now onto the web. Okay. So now that we can use this, for that, what I will do is again, I will go back to the API management that we have created. Let me go get into the resource group first. And this is the API management that we had created. So I will get into that API management. Okay, all right. And then we will get into the APIs. So we will select the open API from this list, and then here we have got option to specify the open API specification. So either we can download that as a file, as a JSON file, or we can just give it as a URL. So if I again go back here, our JSON file is here, so which I can directly give from this path. Right, so this is our open API specification, which is the Swagger JSON referred for this particular API. Or download this and then select that as a file. So for that, you can just right click save as, and then this one will be saved as a JSON file, and even you can do that. Second thing here is that if you see at the display name, it has automatically detected that display name by looking at that Swagger definition, and then it has taken that name here and the display name here. Another thing here, if you want to specify the API URL suffix, even you can do that. I will just call it as a product API or prod API. So this is the URL that we will have, which will be executed at the end, right? So this is our API M URL. I will just go ahead and click on create. Okay. All right, so now that it is created, what we need to do now is that we just need to go into the settings, because we need to have a mapping between where this API is being referred to. Okay, so now that in this web service URL, we need to get it referred to our Azure websites.net, which we just have created. So I will just copy it and paste it here, right? Okay, so this is the API which is being referred from this particular web service, and we will just simply go ahead and save this. Now that once it is saved, we will quickly test it out, and then we will use this into our Power Apps. So let us get into the test. I will just click on API/products, and then I will simply send this because we are not passing on any parameters to this. And you can see that the response is 200 OK, and we are able to get all of the products that we had written in our code. So everything is coming again from in memory, which is this thing, pencil, pen, and sharpener. These are the three products that we have, which are being written by your API M as well. All right. So now that we have tested this application, next thing what we can do is that we can create a custom connector based on this in our Power Platform, and then we will use it in our Power Apps. Right. So for that, just click on these three dots next to your API, and here you have something called as Create Power Connector. So just click on that, and it will help you to create a connector, a custom connector for you to consume in the Power Apps. So this will automatically pick up your Power Apps environment. So let's say, for example, if you have multiple environments, select the one where you want to get this custom connector published to. In my case, I do have multiple. So for example, if I get into make.powerapps.com, you can see that I at least have three environments, and it has detected all those three environments. All right, so if I click here, these are the three environments that I have got, which was detected by this. I will just go ahead with the default one, and the API display name, we will just keep it as product API. We'll click on create. So what it will do simply is that it will create a custom connector for us to be used in Power Apps, Power Automate, as well as Azure Logic Apps as well. Okay. So once it is done with the creating the custom connectors, we will get those consumed in the Power Apps app. All right. So let it do. It is usually take maybe 15 to 20 seconds to get that custom connector created. Once it is ready, we should be able to use that. So now that you can see that we can at least use that in Power Apps, Power Automate. We'll just focus on Power Apps. We'll click on this link. All right, or maybe let me just directly get into this part, and we are already onto the default environment where we have this custom connector created. Again, yeah, for example, if you want to see that, what we can do is make.powerautomate.com. Unfortunately, we don't have any option available to see all those custom connectors from the Power Apps portal here. So I usually again mostly go to the make.powerautomate.com, and there we have all those options available. Okay, here we still don't have. If you go into the data, if you go get into the custom connectors, here we should have that connector created called as product API. Okay, this is the connector that we have got. And if you want to get into this connector, you can just click into this edit button. And here you can see that everything is listed here. All of the, again, you can get into the security to see everything. Once you get into the definition, you will be able to see that we have at least two definitions. One is for the products, one is for the weather forecast, and then again we will be able to test it out. And this code just refer to, for example, if you want to use that, how you can use that. So now that we won't be able to directly do that because we don't have active connections here. So for that, what we can do is just click on new connection, and then we will be able to create a new connection with that um, custom connector that we have created. So it is asking us for the subscription key, and that subscription key we should be able to get from our APIs, or even we do have subscriptions, yes. But again, let's say, for example, if I get into the product API, simplest way is to get into the product API. And then again, if you go into the test here, let's say, for example, if we select this particular operation, and then if we get copy all this thing, this is the key that we have got. Again, same thing, you should be able to get it from here as well. So if you get into the subscription, even here we should have those keys available. So if I click show key, this should be the same key that we have available, right? So either you can take it from the subscription, or you can take it from the API from where you have consumed that. So I will just put that subscription key here, click on create connection, And this is the connection that we have built now. Let me just refresh that so that we'll be able to build that. And then we can just simply go ahead and click on test operation. So once you just do it here itself, you don't have to do it repeatedly in your Power Apps or Power Automate. This is the key being used by all of your Power Apps or Power Automate. And here you can see that we have all those information being displayed. So these are the products that we have got. Quickly, let's see how we'll be able to consume this in our Power Apps app. So again, we will click on blank app, click on create, and then I will just type here product API, and let us create this one. So once we do that, let us maybe create a gallery here where we will be able to show all that information. And then in the connectors, we should be able to see the connector that we just had created, which was product API. Okay, it is here, luckily. Okay, so let us get that product API. And then in the in the items, we can simply product write this like product API dot get API products, or maybe the weather API that we wanted to use here. And then it doesn't accept anything. And then we should be able to get all the details here. Like maybe we'll just get ahead with product APIs, and then here it is giving all of the data from that API. Let's say instead of this item dot details, we want to show the name of the item. We will do that. We'll show the name here, and then here we will probably show the details. Okay, so this thing is coming directly from the API that we had created. So if you see, all those things was from the in memory, and now that it is being used here in our Power Apps app. So now that if I go ahead, click run, we should be able to see all the details. Only thing like we won't be able to write back because everything is coming from the memory. But at the same time, for example, if you had developed this on top of any of your actual data source, let's say it could be SQL DB or anything else, you should have been able to do that. All right. So this was pretty much simple, that how you will be also able to create your own custom connector by consuming the API that you already have built with Azure, and then use that with your Power Apps app. All right. So that was our last demo. And with that, thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for having me, Dear Azure, on this session. And these are the, again, social media handlers through which you will be able to connect with me. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Back to you.